Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Super Sports Central. Today, we're going to be grading the 2022 NFL Draft for every NFL team, and I'm going to try to run through all teams a little rather quickly. We'll still go into a little bit, and we're not just going to be like whatever A or whatever like that, but it's going to be a little bit quicker because we have to get through all the teams. So, getting right into it, we have the Bills. So they picked Kyer Elam, so they have another cornerback to play opposite Tre'Davious White. They also picked James Cook at number 63, who's just a more dynamic version of what they were getting when they could have signed J.D. McKissick, who opted to go back to Washington. And they also got an elite punter in Matt Ariza. Hopefully I said his name correctly. So overall, very good draft for the Bills, B+. Next we have the Patriots. They took Cole Strange, who I'd never heard of going into the draft. They had a very confusing draft. They took Tyquan Thornton over a few other good receivers. He is a field stretcher. And then they also took two running backs. And they also took Bailey Zappi over Sam Howell. So obviously neither of those quarterbacks would start because they have Mac Jones. But a very overall confusing draft for the Patriots. They're going to get a C. Next we have the Jets. So A+ for the Jets. They had an outstanding draft. Sauce Gardner at 4, Garrett Wilson at 10. Jermaine Johnson fell all the way to 26, and the Jets wouldn't let him fall any further. Filling 3 team needs right there with, I think, the best corner, the best receiver, and a definitely top 3 edge rusher. Or maybe 4, depending on where you want to classify Trayvon Walker. They also got a running back, Breece Hall, who's arguably the best running back in the draft. Definitely an A+ for the Jets. I think they had arguably the best draft. Next, we have the Dolphins. Only 4 picks in the draft. To be completely honest, I haven't heard of three of their picks, and I'd only heard of Skylar Thompson because he was a quarterback for Kansas State. Overall, for the draft, I'm going to give him a C+. Next team, we have the Ravens. They had an outstanding draft, definitely top 5. They did trade Hollywood Brown, so that leaves Rashad Bateman as the first wide receiver. They also have a reliable tight end in Mark Andrews. They got a great center in Tyler Linderbaum, and an elite safety who was a steal at 14 in Kyle Hamilton. They also got 2 tight ends, which is a little strange, and a high upside pass rusher, David Ajabo, who suffered a torn Achilles at his pro day. A+ for the Ravens. Next, we have the Bengals. They had a good draft. They're going to get a B+. They got 2 good defensive backs. They got a versatile player in Zachary Carter, who has lots of potential, so as I said, they're going to get a B+. Next, we have the Steelers. They got Kenny Pickett, who was the only quarterback taken in the first 2 rounds. Also got another great receiver, or they got 2 good receivers, George Pickens and Calvin Austin. They got Cam Hayward's brother, Connor Hayward, who's more of an H-back type fullback. They also got a defensive lineman to Marvin Leal. I like this draft a lot for the Steelers. They have another quarterback to compete with Mitch Trubisky, 2 wide receivers. I really like the Pickens pick, and A- as my final draft grade for the Steelers. Next up, we have the Cleveland Browns. They didn't have a selection till round 3. They did get 2 wide receivers, Mike Woods and David Bell, which is a pretty big positional need, but not huge. B- for the Browns. Next, we have the Jaguars. They took Trayvon Walker at number 1 overall, which is more of the upside pick there. They took 2 linebackers, Devin Lloyd and Chad Muma, which was very confusing because they had already signed Foye Oluokun in free agency. So for the Jaguars, they're going to get a B. Next, we have the Titans. They got an absolute steal in the draft with Malik Willis in the 3rd round. They did trade away A.J. Brown, but they got a potential replacement who's got an even bigger frame, and that is Traylon Burks. They also got a corner and a running back in Hassan Haskins to take some of the heavy workload off Derrick Henry. Henry's obviously still going to be the featured back, but maybe he won't be getting overworked. He'll just be getting a lot of carries instead of a ton. Overall, B for the Titans. Next, we have the Colts. I like how they got Alec Pierce out of Cincinnati as another wide receiver to help Michael Pittman. And they also got a tight end in Jelani Woods. And they also drafted a tackle. Good draft for the Colts, B-. Next, we have the Texans. I think they took Derek Stingley Jr. Well, they did take Derek Stingley. I don't think they did. They did. They took Derek Stingley Jr. at number 3, who I think was a little early for him, especially with Sauce Gardner still on the board. And they took Kenyon Green at 15, who, again, it was a little early for him. They also got versatile safety Jalen Petrie, running back Dameon Pierce, and wide receiver John Mechie. So from where the Texans were heading into the draft, they had an outstanding draft and they're looking so much better. A- for the Texans. Next, we have the Broncos. They traded away several picks with the Russell Wilson trade, but they did get a good tight end to help replace Noah Fant. B- for the Broncos. Next, we have the Chiefs. They helped the defense getting George Karlaftis and Trent McDuffie. They got a good wide receiver in Sky Moore, who has potential to be, I think, their best wide receiver this season. Great draft for the Chiefs. They get an A. Next, we have the Raiders. They didn't have many picks because of the Devontae Adams trade, but it was definitely worth the trade, getting the best receiver in football. They upgraded the offensive line and got another running back in Zamir White. Good draft, B+. Next, we have the Chargers. So, I was a little confused when they took Zion Johnson over Trevor Penning. And while Johnson did play left tackle in college, I still would have preferred Penning there. But both are really good players that are going to help the offensive line. They got another running back in Isaiah Spiller to help take a little bit of the weight off Austin Eckler. A- for the Chargers. Next, we have the Giants. My favorite team. A+ for the Giants. They got two of the best players in the draft. Filled positional needs. They did get Wan'Dale Robinson at 53 out of Kentucky, who was a little bit of a reach. And I also wouldn't have taken him because of the other receivers still on the board. A+ for the Giants. The Cowboys, they added wide receiver Jalen Tolbert and got Tyler Smith to help the offensive line. B- for the Cowboys. Next, we have the Eagles. They got Steele with Kobe Dean at 83 overall. They got Jordan Davis at 13, and they traded for A.J. Brown. Definitely an A+. Next, we have the Washington Commanders. They got a quarterback, a wide receiver, and a running back who I didn't really think they needed. The running back was Brian Robinson Jr. out of Alabama. They already have J.D. McKissick and Antonio Gibson. Wide receiver Jahan Dotson. Some people are saying it was a little bit of a reach. I don't think so. I really like Dotson as a player. He's a very dynamic wide receiver. And they also got Sam Howell, who potential successor to Carson Wentz. B for the Commanders. Next, we have the Packers. They got their wide receiver in Christian Watson. Also got another wide receiver in Romeo Doubs. They got Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt to help out the defense. B+ for the Packers. Next team, we have the Minnesota Vikings. They made a questionable trade to go down to number 32. They picked two great players in the secondary. But for B for the Vikings. Next, we have the Lions. They traded up with the Vikings to get Jameson Williams. They also got arguably the best player in the class in Aiden Hutchinson. Great draft for the Lions, getting arguably the top receiver and arguably the top edge rusher. A for the Lions. The Bears selected Kyra Gordon and Jaquan Brisker, two great secondary players. Also picked a wide receiver for Justin Fields. Decent draft, C+, maybe B-. But my grade is a C+. Next, we have the Saints. They had a great draft. Chris Olave and Trevor Penning, two of their biggest needs. They didn't go after a quarterback, so potentially they believe in Jameis Winston. I don't think he's the long-term answer, but maybe the Saints think he is. They did trade away a lot of future draft capital. My grade for the Saints is a B. Next team, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They didn't really have many needs going in. They did get guard, which is one of the needs they had. They also got a versatile defensive lineman in Logan Hall. B+ for the Buccaneers. Next, we have the Falcons. They selected Desmond Ridder over Malik Willis, which was a little confusing. I could see it because he's potentially a more ready pro passer. And he's going to be competing with Marcus Mariota. Great value for where he went. Cause I had him going in the first round. And Drake London, I think he's not the best wide receiver, but he's still something. I think Garrett Wilson was the best wide receiver, but B+ for the Falcons. Next, we have the Panthers, another team that got their quarterback not in the first round. They got Matt Corral, and they also got the offensive line some help with Akeem Ekwonu. A- for the Panthers. Matt Corral better be starting. Sam Darnold does not deserve to start. We saw what happened last year, and they were horrible. On to the last division, we have the Rams. They got running back Kyron Williams, who's a great pass protector and pass catcher, who can be a third down back. They also got an offensive lineman who could compete right away for a starting position. B for the Rams. Next, we have the Cardinals. They made a horrendous Hollywood Brown trade. They got two defensive ends and a tight end in Trey McBride, who could be a great pairing with Zach Ertz. B+ for the Cardinals. I'm going to give him a B. Next, we have the Seahawks. They got Charles Cross, helped the offensive line. They didn't get a quarterback, which is a little confusing. They got Kenneth Walker, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because they already have Chris Carson and Rashad Penny, but Chris Carson can't stay on the field. So maybe it does make sense when you look at it that way. B for the Seahawks. Next, we have the 49ers. They did not have a pick till day 2. They took a great pass rusher in Drake Jackson. They took Ty Davis-Price out of LSU to help Elijah Mitchell. And they took Brock Purdy as Mr. Irrelevant. B+ for the 49ers. So those are my draft grades for every NFL team. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments if you agree with your team's draft grade, disagree, and why. So like, subscribe, comment. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.